if you can kind of explain the why to people opposed to just mandating something, you can be so much more impactful in your district.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Accelerate Your Performance podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Janet Pilcher, founder and president of Studer Education. Last week, we spoke with an operational leader who showed us what it means to get 1% better every day. And today, we'll continue that theme with a leader who took that philosophy and applied it to a core operational function, his district's finances. It's my pleasure to welcome Joseph Murley, Director of Finance for the Barron County School District in Kentucky. For the past 13 years, Joe has been a leader in education finance. His leadership philosophy is built on being clear, fair, and consistent, with a focus on accountability and helping his team succeed. His commitment to leading by example has earned him recognitions like the Outstanding Administrators Award from the Kentucky Association of School Administrators. Today, we're going to dive into how Joe and his team used a staff survey to identify a need for updated financial processes and how that led to a more efficient and effective online fundraising system. We'll also talk about the importance of building relationships and the power of explaining the why behind every change. Let's dive in with Joe. It's with great pleasure that I welcome Joe Murley to our show today. Joe, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
So Dee Dee has shared the work that you all are doing and especially describes you as being all in with the work. And she's talked about you and your team and you reading Hardwiring Excellence in Education and coming to our conferences, which has been great. So just to appreciate the leadership that you've provided to your district and your team, Joe. Just wanted to start out with that part. And let's start a little bit. Tell us, the audience, a little bit about yourself and your role in Barron County Schools.
Well, I've been an education finance director or chief financial officer for about 13 years now. I started at a education cooperative where I was the CFO there for 3 years. And then I've been blessed to serve the Barron County School District in Kentucky for this is my 10th year now.
Yeah. I'm excited about the conversation that we'll have specifically around the operational and finance piece, Joe. I think that's such a critical part of school districts, and sometimes we tend not to talk about that because we're so focused on the academic piece. So talk about a little bit before we get started with specifics, how you were introduced to our work together with Studer Education.
Well, our former superintendent, Mr. Matthews, he was on a board with the hospital, and he talked about the great work Studer was doing with hospitals, and he heard that they were in education as well, but he just saw how great it was, and worked with Dee Dee Ashby a bit, and we went to a conference in Pensacola and saw presentations and things of that nature, and then our district just jumped into it, and so that's kind of how I was introduced with it. Being the finance director, you kind of hear good things, but some different things about surveys and stuff. So I was a little skeptical, at first, like as we'd be surveyed or whatever. But I found out that it was much more than that what Studer offers and things of that nature.
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's talk a little bit about that, Joe. So I know in your continuous improvement work, you have conducted a staff survey and, learned that there was a desire for updated financial processes, and you built a response with an online fundraising system in your accounting software. So talk a little bit about like how you learned that, what you did, and how you responded.
As a district, our first district-wide survey we took with Studer, one of the responses we received was making finances easier in the district for staff, students, pretty much anyone else. So in response to that, we thought modernizing our school activity fund software would be a great start on that. And, we work with the principals, the bookkeepers on, looking at softwares, and basically they were all in on modernizing the online fundraising part because prior to that, we didn't have the infrastructure to really do online fundraisers in our district. So we implemented it last year, got converted over with all our schools. We have 9 brick and mortar schools in our district, and they learned the accounting part great. But when I looked at the actual participation in online fundraising, it was like 5%
Gosh.
versus cash was 95%.
Mm-hmm.
And, I thought that really doesn't make sense. When you look at studies, people 55 years and younger, it's less than 20% of the time they're actually using cash. However, at our school district, everybody's using cash. That didn't make any sense. So when I did rounding a little bit and asking the bookkeepers, what we heard was, well, I sent the email to staff, and and
Uh,
then so I thought, well, let's just ask, Dr. Ashby. She says, feedback is a gift, things of
yeah.
that nature. And I thought, well, maybe I need feedback from the staff. Why are we not participating in something that just seems like it would make sense to do? And so I modeled the survey basically off of what we were doing in the district with Studer and just sent it to staff, parents, anyone. I was looking for feedback from literally anyone. Overwhelmingly, what I saw was that 80% of people were interested in doing online fundraising, but over half of them didn't know that we even had a platform to even do online fundraising. So, the email sent to the staff maybe wasn't the most impactful way of relaying that we do have online fundraising available in the district. So we were able to take that information and work with the School Cash Online's the group we have with the online fundraising platform. They were able to tailor like a marketing campaigns, what I would call it,
Yeah.
to spread
Yeah.
awareness out to the district. The other thing we learned with the survey is that basically field trips, teachers really wanted to do online fundraising because they don't have to do those
Mm.
multiple receipt forms. And so one of the big selling points was, hey, no more multiple receipt forms. You can use online fundraising to get away from this. So we have a big selling point for people to actually use it.
Yeah, and I love what you did there because you really didn't know the answer. I mean that's the you could have guessed or you could have said, maybe this, maybe that, and then just gone with your own solution. But you didn't do that. You really went to where people were kind of boots on the ground using it or the people that needed it and said, why not? Right? What's going on? And then you got a good answer for how you could move it forward. So as you've done that, Joe, I mean, have you seen the increase in use of it?
A bit, it's so early in the year, school hadn't really started yet.
Mm-hmm.
We've already seen the schools taking advantage of at least some of the fee parts of it more, and people are more aware of it, that kind of thing. I think it'll really take off when school gets back and we're into doing field trips and things of that nature. But I've heard that over with us it's a lot. It's 600 different parents have used one of the fee portions of it, which is a great sign already. The
Yeah.
the other thing I failed to mention, an added information that I just wasn't even aware of prior to doing the survey was one of the comments the parents said was we need to simplify all the online platforms we have because in our district they have maybe 4 or 5 different ones. Well, we've got an official district one that can do all the things that they're doing. And so making the process more simple for parents was one of the pieces of information I learned. So I was able to sell that as well to bookkeepers, staff, whatever. We're trying to make this more simple, not more complicated.
Yeah, so good. So to be interesting, I mean, it'd be great. And you're looking at the data as you go into the year, you'll be looking at the data and continuing to get feedback and tweak it. And so that's that nice feedback loop, right, Joe? I mean, that's the consistency of gathering that data, analyzing it, taking an action, and continuing to collect that data to determine how well it's working. That's a great example of one thing that you're really building better efficiencies and gathering data to be helpful and provide a great service. I know you also round with your finance directors once a semester. Talk a little bit about the effect of those practices and how it strengthened your relationship with them.
Oh yeah, having a culture where we're in the building wherever they are, and asking them, hey, how's it going? Just little, 5 minute conversations. It really helps me see things that I wouldn't normally see in the office. Being present and often a 2 minute conversation can really save hours of time to them or even to me learning like maybe there's a process that we don't really have right or just something and it certainly does help. So we've implemented that. We got with Studer, that was one of the suggestions. Their strategic plan was to go to the schools
Mm-hmm.
and talk to the bookkeepers. And so yeah, I do that at least once a semester, usually at the beginning of the year, just to see how everything's going, anything I can help with, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so good. And I'm sure they appreciate that you're with come to them and the relationship that you're building with them and have that care and concern for what their needs are. So I think that's probably built good relations and improved those relations for you all. Again, I go back to kind of the operations piece. The one thing that you're trying to do is improve the efficiencies, improve better service, build the relationships with people you serve. What I really love about this conversation, Joe, is Sometimes in operations, we just think we go there, we do our job, we have a job, and we get the job done. But sometimes we forget we're really in service of the people within the district. I mean, to our parents and families as well. But for the most part, you're providing great service to those internal to your district so that they can do their jobs and really help students and families to the best of their ability.
I think what's helped me with working with Studer and things like that, if you can kind of explain the why to people opposed to just mandating something, you can be so much more impactful in your district.
Yes. Yes. And it's just not comply because I said so, right? Do what
Oh
I
yeah.
said so, but here's how we're doing it. And people are, aren't they, Joe? They are really responsive, and most people want to do a good job in what's right, and they want to, they want the help and support to do that. So as we close today, just thinking about your role as an operations area in the finance area, what advice would you give to other school district operation leaders when it comes to balancing the practical, logistical aspects of change and, just really beginning to build those human relationships and considerations of how you provide great service every day?
Before I answer that, if you don't mind, I would
Yeah,
tell
please.
I would tell anybody that's in the finance or operations role when your district's blessed to partner with Studer or whatever, keep open mind about it, and you're going to have a lot of resources. If you go to a conference, you're going to see a lot of things that will definitely apply to you in practical terms. One of the things I thought was just a great idea was the lone wolf, how we're trying to reduce as many lone wolves as we can. I'd never really thought about that,
Right.
and saw that at one of the conferences where they had a plan where they made procedures, things like that. And the lone wolf, my definition of it is somebody that kind of holds all the information hostage and thinks they're irreplaceable. And many school districts will show a plan or presentation, or I say many. When I went to the conference, we saw a great presentation on how the school district was able to, in practical terms, eliminate their lone wolves, which really makes the company much
Right.
more better culture and more efficient.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that.
so that would be my advice overall with your group. And then for any operations person, things of that nature, being compliant is always important, but people really, until they show that you show them that you care about what they do, they're not going to care as much about what you're doing with compliance side, is what I would say.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Oh gosh, so good. I mean, and that's what, I just always find myself saying, Joe, do we want compliance or do we want performance, right? I mean, we're really about, we want the best in terms of outcomes. So compliance will only get us to a certain point, but if people are engaged in the work and connecting with us, then we'll get higher levels of performance. And compliance is just what occurs when people, as you talked about, when people understand why they're doing what they're doing and that they contribute to the whole, they will be responsive to that.
when we got started with the book, with Dr. Ashby, one of the first lines as a finance director, because I was a little skeptical of it. Don't get me wrong. Looking at it, I was like, this is one of those education things. I mean, this ain't gonna apply to me. And one of the first things was in the intro. It was like the messaging was, while we're not getting like the staffing or allocation, we're going to work with what we have. I was like, I love that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I even repeated it to all the principals. Oh, look, it's right here in the book. We're going to work with what we had, just just teasing all of them, that kind of thing. So,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
thought that was great, and there's a lot of great things in that book that I've taken away and tried to apply.
Well, thank you. And it's interesting because again, I love this conversation because in many ways, what we're trying to do when I write Hardwiring Excellence in Education, and thinking about the work, we're really kind of taking the concept of a business model, Joe, and applying it to what it means in education. So
Mhm.
I'm glad it resonates with you from an operation standpoint. And people will tell you, I'm always on our team saying, hey, let's really make sure we don't always focus just on the academics because the operational part of our district is just as important as the academics because without good service and building efficiencies within our processes, it's very difficult for people to be able to do a good job.
Well, thank you for what you all do, and how you help school districts around the country, and all these things. We certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time today. And good luck as we continue your year and moving into a successful year. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing your experience and your team story. I can tell that your work is driven by a deep commitment to serving the people in the Barron County School District. Your insights about the importance of explaining the why behind every decision and eliminating the lone wolves are a powerful reminder that culture and process are deeply connected. May we all seek out the why and use feedback as a gift to drive continuous improvement. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Accelerate Your Performance podcast. I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to work together toward organization and leadership excellence. Have a great week, everyone.